It's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday.
In the church today, I'm sure there are many who can relate to that kind of sentiment, and it certainly seems only a few short years before yesterday that Ken joined the All Blacks assembling in Auckland for the 1963-4 UK tour. He had burst onto the rugby scene over the previous 2 years and was an automatic selection. Those days, I remind you, we did the long tours of 32, 3 or 4 games, and were away for well over 4 months. Ken and I roomed together at the start of the tour. He hadn't long been married, as I recall, and this was his first tour away. He quickly found his feet and adjusted to the higher demands of touring, but there was occasional difficulties. I recall early in the tour, it must have been Ken's second or third match only. We were playing Swansea or Llanelli or someone, and the player marking Ken in the line-out had been suspended from club rugby for fighting or some sort of illegalities, but he'd been released for this one game. And he was marking Ken. And he elbowed and leant and pushed and thumped and became totally a nuisance, that after 20 minutes, Ken, in the line-out in front of the main stand, which was packed with people, looked back into the line-out, and we all stood shoulder to shoulder in those days, and he looked back towards me and said, "I know what I'd do to this fellow here if I was playing for Petone or Wellington, but I don't want to do the wrong thing in an All Black jersey. Advise me." Well, unfortunately for the Welshman, standing between Ken and I, because I was at 4 and Ken was 2, was Mr. Meads, who gave the advice before I could. And Mr. Meads said, "Thump him." The fellow could have said, "Don't thump him," really, he was only standing there. So the ball came in, whack, and this fellow's lying in the mud. And I said, "I'll have to have a chat with you after the game about subtlety and timing," because the referee had penalised us and the crowd were getting restless. And Ken and Pinetree said, "Yes," he said, "he needs some honing up on subtlety, but his technique's not bad."
Dad was our rudder, the centre of our life, and greatly influenced the course of our lives. To our darling mum Joy, he was a best friend and intellectual suitor. He offered loving commitment without reservation and openly displayed his devotion to Joy. In fact, many of my brothers and my friends who came to know Joy and Ken would comment on their open affection towards one another. To our dearest mum, at this time our thoughts are with you, for it is you who has been his partner in life for all these years. Our dad was a firm believer that we children should be independent, get out and see the world and make our lives for ourselves. This he encouraged us to do. However, I believe that deep down, Ken would have liked nothing more than to have his family around him all the time and spoil us rotten at every opportunity. But he followed his principles and encouraged us to both travel and live abroad. Perhaps we feel, as Dad used to joke, it was so that his children would be strategically placed around the world to accommodate his future world travel. We loved the quirks and inconsistencies in our dad's nature too. They were ever varied and the source of much amusement. My eldest brother, Andrew, remembers an incident concerning his first yachting experience as a young boy of about 7 or 8. Having briefly mentioned yachting the night before, Andrew arrived home from school the next day to find Dad and a P-class yacht in the front paddock. After depositing Andrew on the Parramatta side of Pawatahanui Inlet, Ken gave him the briefest of instructions. He was pushed off unceremoniously from the shore with Ken's boot and the words, "Go yachting, my son." After some time floundering around the centre of the inlet and finally making a beeline for the homeward shore, Ken eventually retrieved the intrepid young yachter, who was never to be seen in a P class again. Of course, we all knew it was Dad who wanted to be the yachty, not Andrew. Rightly or wrongly, Dad believed that the three of us could do most things. At different times between the ages of 5 and 7 years, we were all expected to take over the controls of the farm Land Rover, as Dad leapt out to feed hay, no matter what hazards lay ahead. As you can probably imagine, this resulted in Ken repairing several gates, fences and posts, not to mention the Land Rover. As youngsters, Ken made us feel that everything we did on the farm was important and helpful, whereas in reality our efforts were probably more a hindrance than a help. Our dad was a tireless playmate and at times a kid at heart. We often wondered who enjoyed the hijinks the most, Ken or us. Most of all, he gave us the security of knowing when push came to shove, he would move heaven and earth for us. This devotion was evidenced by the fact that he sacrificed his strong desire to enter politics so that he could spend some time at home with us, his children, in our early years. Dad was exceedingly generous, just a big softy at heart. Many times Ken and Joy would house, feed and find work for those people more needy than themselves. Ken openly adored his mother and would do anything for her. He admired his mum's courage, strength and amazing generosity, wonderful qualities which I believe he inherited from her. He enjoyed Gran's company and would regale us with stories after each visit. Ken was very proud of you, Gran. On a personal level, my dad was everything to me. He was my strength, my conscience, and my motivation. Ken's death has left a huge void in all our lives. We love him with all our hearts, and we have lost our gentle giant.